All right, hello everybody. Let's see, we're gonna be taking a little trip here. We're just above Portland, New York. We're gonna be doing a little science lesson here. What we are driving up right now, I'm gonna switch the cameras here. We are driving up a valley created by glaciers. So we're gonna switch the cameras and I'll just show you a little bit. So as you come over this hill, what you're gonna see is the valley open up. You're gonna see hills on either side. And then you're gonna see one mountain in front of us here. It looks like it got chopped off, and that is called a truncated spur. So what happened is the glaciers about 10,000, 12,000 years ago pushed down through this valley, created a huge U-shaped valley, and actually cut this mountain completely in half. So as we come around this corner here, you're going to see exactly what we're talking about here. And as the glaciers melted away, they let deposits and a whole bunch of other stuff come down, and those deposits filled the valley. Okay, so just came around a turn and I got a better view here. This valley here is a really awesome valley because it was all the deposition from when the glaciers melted got pushed into this valley. And where we're heading today, up to Tully, New York, is actually where the glacier, last time it surged down from Canada, it stopped right in Tully and it left a huge pile of dirt. As it melted, all that water washed down this valley. So you're going to notice the hills on either side are getting smaller and smaller, but we are actually going up a ramp of deposits and sediment laid down by the melting glaciers. And the sediment actually takes us up higher in the valley, so there's less hills on either side. So we're actually going up a ramp, and it opens, and when we hit Tully, you're going to see there's this huge pile of dirt going across the entire valley, called the Valley Heads Moraine, and that's the last place the glacier stopped before melting away. And to the left, you'll see a truncated spur on the left, where the mountain was pretty much cut off. Alright, you'll see another truncated spur up here on the left side of the screen, and what that is again another one. This is actually the back of Song Mountain. And then this area here, you can see the valley's kind of risen up to almost the height of the hills because we're still going up that ramp. Now the other thing that's in this area is a lot of little ponds. A lot of these ponds are called kettle ponds. What that means is that there was huge pieces of ice that fell off the glacier and was left behind, and those giant chunks of ice got buried with soil. And I'll show you a description of this in a second. But they got buried in soil, and over thousands and thousands of years, as that soil, as the ice melted, the soil kind of collapsed and made a sinkhole, and those sinkholes filled with water, and they call them kettle ponds. There's one here to the left. So these kettle ponds were formed by giant chunks of ice getting buried by soil from the outwash of the glacier, and over thousands and thousands of years after the glacier melted, these chunks of ice melted underground, and you had a resulting sinkhole, and it caused these little circular ponds that are all over the place in this area. This is near Preble, New York. Alright, so it's very windy. I hope you can hear okay. This is a kettle pond right at Tully, New York. And as you see how large some of these ponds are, this one's huge. And this is right on top of the moraine. So we are actually right on top of where the ice actually stopped. So this kettle pond is very large. And it's actually a public swimming area and everything else. But again, giant chunk of ice this big, hundreds of feet tall, covered by sediment and melted over thousands of years while it was underground, resulted in sinkholes, giant ones like this, smaller ones as well, called kettle ponds. We're going to drive next down the hill off the moraine into the valley where the new glacier erosion was, the latest, and we're going to check out something really awesome. Okay, so we are in Tully, New York. We're driving across the top of the terminal moraine, the Valley Heads Moraine. And And this goes across the entire valley. It's a giant pile of dirt left by the glaciers about 10 to 12,000 years ago. And in just a second, we are going to turn and actually drop down the side of this pile of dirt. And you'll see exactly what I mean. So there's a 300 or 400 feet of dirt right here piled up. It's a giant, like the glacier acted as a giant bulldozer. And like I said, just a minute, we're going to take a right turn and drive off this pile of dirt down the mountain. Alright, so here's the turn off the moraine, and then we are going to drop down off the moraine into the new valley created by the glacier. Now you can picture a glacier half a mile in front of us, towering into the sky, pushed right up against this hill. That's what it was like. So we're dropping straight down now into the valley. We'll come back another day right here for some fossils. Straight down the mountain. This is again right where the glacier was pushed up against. And as soon as we hit this bottom of this hill, you're going to see the valley open up to a giant U-shaped valley. This is the newest valley in the area. This is where the glacier was last pushed up against the hill here. It was the last down. So you're going to see this giant U-shaped valley form again. And this is where our artesian wells and everything else are going to be for the day. Still dropping down into the valley off the terminal moraine. And I'll stop and actually give a look backwards so you can see this across the valley. The other thing you want to look at is along the sides of the road, you're going to see the telephone poles are going to be tilted. So look for tilted telephone poles and tilted tree trunks. That's something called soil creep. We're going to explain that later, but soil creep is super... Nah, you're not a creep, Daniel. Soil creep. The soil actually moves 2 centimeters over the course of a year. So keep your eye out for that as we drop down into the valley. Notice the hills now are large again on either side as we continue to come down. Yeah, remember the glacier, that wall, that moraine has had 10,000 years to wash down into this valley. So it's not as steep as it used to be. Alright, so now we're heading back on this farmer's property. He gave us permission. On the back of the land should be some mud boils. So we're going to go check that out and see, and we'll explain what's happening when we get there. So this valley is completely covered in a layer of clay on the bottom, about a few feet down under this soil. The clay is what they call impermeable. It means you can't have water go through it. So all this groundwater, which is pushing up and trying to get above our heads right now, can't because of that clay. So it builds pressure. So if we can find places where it's pushing through, then you can find natural artesian springs and hopefully some mud boils today. So we'll take a walk and see what we can find. So this area up here, as we're coming onto, was once completely flat, just like this field. And the water found a way up through the clay. And over the years, it's caused this huge sinkhole or depression to form as the water came up. And you can see almost the steps created. And I think that was on the one video I had people watch, as it's all sinking down into this large sinkhole. So if there's going to be mud boils, it's where water's pushing up through the clay. We're going to walk around the edge of this and kind of down into the woods there, see if we can find any. So my youngest wants to know why the X's are there. We have plates with X's, and this is, they put these on the ground as testing areas to show the movement over time. And as you can see here, right next to Maddie, there's a new section of the field here sinking down and starting to slump or cave in. So this will just keep going into this field. Alright, so this is one spot where the water is coming up out of the ground. You wouldn't want to walk out here because it's all clay. Yeah, this is pretty soupy. Okay, it's all mud and all this clay. And you can see where it's boiling up out of the ground here. You got this little mound of clay and it's going down. So this is where the groundwater has found a spot through this clay layer. Pretty crazy. Alright, so this is one of the larger mud boils in the area, again where that water's coming up. And you can see it's really soupy, thick clay. And when I talk about clay being impermeable, the clay, water cannot go through it. So this is the same clay that we actually use for making pottery and doing all the pottery things. It's the same clay. So, pretty neat.
This is clay. It's impermeable. That means water can't go through it. Watch. What do you think is gonna happen? Nothing's going through. My hand is a little wet because it can come out from here. But see, this isn't going through.
Alright, so in this valley here, the ground is so unstable because of that impermeable clay and that water pushing up on it. Roads like this have stopped because there were bridges here. Those bridges are very unstable and it caused a lot of road damage, so they had to close a lot of these roads here. This is also the site where there was an artesian well. Now I'll show you a picture from about 20 years ago, but right here in the ground they actually had a well dug, a pipe in the ground, and it was spewing out water all the time. Alright, so guys, right here, you are standing on huge piles of clay. This is the site of the largest mass wasting landslide area in New York State in the last 75 years. 1993 in April, the mountain behind me, part of it collapsed, pushing down one side, and the other side came up, and all this clay came rolling down the valley across the road you're standing. That's, Grace is standing there recording. And it took out several houses and also created some really cool stuff. There's some springs back here that have sulfur, but this underneath this little thing of grass is 100% pure red clay. Stuff you can be pottery with.
This is the same as that.
Let's take a little peek and so we are walking over these mounds and mounds of clay. This is 1993, so a few years ago. We're gonna be heading towards the back here. And this is, like I said, where the clay pushed up after the back side of the valley back there collapsed down. So imagine taking a bowl of dough and pushing down on one side and the other side kind of spits out the other end. That's exactly what happened here. So this is right in the middle of the slump here and right on top, about halfway to the sulfur springs. This is the area that didn't really flow at all. This area just kind of rotated. So it went like from here to this, it rotated. We got to pick our way through all the branches and stuff to get here. You can see on the hillside, that ledge, that's where the whole side collapsed down. So you don't have smell-o-vision here, but the smell is pure rotten eggs. These are sulfur springs. Once this landslide, it's harder to see now. 20 years ago it was a lot easier. If this top of that mountain right here collapsed, this pushed down earlier where we were bubbled up. But check these out. These are sulfur springs. You see the white color? And they smell just like rotten eggs. Stink bombs. All right. Hold on. Go ahead.
Alright, I'm covering my nose because it smells like something died inside of an egg yolk. And then the egg yolk rotted, and I still smell it through my windbreaker. Kind of nasty. Sorry, let me rephrase. Extraordinarily nasty. Even my little caterpillar friend's trying to escape.
I think it's really bad.
Yeah, it smells like a fart.
It smells like
Yeah.
it's so stinky because that's how sticky it is. It smells like a sticky bullhead.
Like this.
Wherever that pipe is where this spring comes out of the ground, and it flows all the way down. You can see the sulfur, sulfuric acid. So right here is where the spring starts. You can see bubbles once in a while. That is actually the sulfur gas bubbling out of the ground. And boy, you can smell it. So this comes down. You can see all the stained. Ugh. And we are just below where the whole thing collapsed, pushed down in this area and opening up these springs which flow. The reason this place collapsed was because of this water pressure pushing up on that clay. Pretty crazy. Oh, it smells.